Pre-order the new Max Out Mindset for Volleyball book and workbook by Dr. Larry Woodman, a guide for coaches, athletes, teams, and parents to help you be in the best position to max out when it matters the most. Go to www.maxoutmindset.com.
Welcome to the Max Out Mindset podcast with your host, Coach Jess. Jess serves as an elite mindset coach to Division I, high school and club athletes, teaching them elite mindset skills, such as confidence and composure, to put them in the best position to max out when it matters the most.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Max Out Mindset podcast. Coach Jess here, and again, we have a stellar lineup of guests. Today, I have PK from the University of Louisville Volleyball program, and she has some really cool stories, testimonies, and insight as her journey as a Division I women's volleyball athlete. She's from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and she's a middle blocker for the Cardinals. She also is coached by head coach Danny Busboom Kelly, Coach Meskey, and Coach Todd. So PK, tell me a little bit more about how you ended up at Louisville and your volleyball journey. Did you only play volleyball?
Okay, so I guess we can start from the beginning of my volleyball journey. So hello, like Jess said, my name is PK. Those are my initials. My actual name is Phekran, which, I mean, it's cool. It's okay. It's a little bit of a mouthful. Usually only like friends and close family call me that, but PK just equally suffices. But so I probably started playing volleyball when I was 13, didn't take it seriously until like that 14, 15 age. But I just started out on a small local team through my high school, just like a JO team. We only played in like 3-4 tournaments. They were all local in town, and it was super cool, super fun. I was also the kind of person at that age where sports were just not appealing to me whatsoever. I so much would rather been out like shopping or drawing or listening to like girly pop music, but like you want me out here like sweating and touching people. I was like, no, I was like, not really my thing. Don't want to do that. But all of my friends are getting super into it and they're like, come try out with us. Like, come play with us. Like, you might like it. It might be fun. I was like, fine, pull my arm a little more. Like, let's do it. Let's try it. And I did like it. I liked it enough where my 14 years came around after playing on a JO team, where I decided to try out for like a bigger club team and made a team. Was out there with all my friends, and I would say that's probably where my volleyball journey truly began. And so from there, I just started playing club quite a bit. Once I got to high school, my freshman year, played JV, a little bit of varsity, and then like as I got older, from after my sophomore year and on, I was starting on varsity, which one didn't think I'd be able to make that big of a jump in such a short amount of time. But volleyball was probably, yeah, the first sport I picked up, and obviously the last since I'm here in college playing it. But aside from that, I mean, I dabbled in basketball for a little bit. Also wasn't my favorite thing on earth because I was tall, so, I was expected to be a post player, and to be a post player, you gotta get physical. You have to be just very physical and aggressive, and I feel like mentally I could have played that role, but just genuinely physically, I was, like, not okay with being pushed around by these girls, and I was just so over it, so I had to give basketball a rest. And I also did track for a little bit. I was mainly a high jumper, but I did a little bit of 400s, and occasionally I got put in, like, a 4x1 or 4x2. And 400s are not very fun either because you were like dead sprinting an entire lap around the track. Oh, not fun. But there's just a different thrill and rush to track that, I can't really explain, but it was so much fun. I mean, if anything, I kind of saw myself wanting to high jump in college over playing volleyball, but the volleyball opportunity just presented itself a little bit better, so we ended up going with that. Which brings me how I ended up at Louisville. So after starting to play club a little bit seriously, my 14s, 15s year, I mean, going out to like bigger tournaments like AAU nationals down in Orlando each year and stuff like that, started to gain some interest from schools, and they'd be sending out like mail, email, those kinds of things. But me, new to volleyball, still new to sports entirely, I didn't care. I was like, "Oh, Florida sent me a letter." Could care less. I was like, But at some point I was like, okay, you know what? Like, I'm actually, garnering like a lot of attention right now. My coaches are like, do you want to play college volleyball? Because if you do, if you want to do it at, this Power 5 level, you need to get on it. And I was like, I'm only a sophomore in high school. Like, why do I need to decide this now? Or why do I need to start thinking about it now? And they're like, well, PK, that's just the name of the game. And if you want to play it, this is how it needs to be done. So I was like, fine, okay, like let's start responding to some schools. Let's start seeing what they have out there. And ended up at the end of the day just going with Louisville. And I feel like what really drew me to them was one, I mean, our head coach, she's born and raised in Nebraska, played her college career there. So that's just pretty close to my hometown, at least. My associate head coach, Dan Meskey, was the coach at Augustana, which is a D2 university in my hometown of Sioux Falls. So he's very familiar with the area where I grew up. That's where they kind of just, found me at. And then our other coach, Todd, he spent time at K-State. So just all three of them are very familiar with the Midwest. I mean, just how we live out there. That's where they were able to find me. And then at least of all the schools that I ended up visiting, I ended up taking visits to Colorado State, Louisville, Tennessee, and then Iowa State. And every time I took another visit, I just kept comparing it to what it was like at Louisville. Um, Louisville's kind of small compared to most Power 5 schools. Like, I'd say we're probably sitting at maybe like 20,000 students undergrad, where like a lot of schools are pushing like 40, 50. I mean, some schools even at 60,000. And I really liked the idea that Louisville had a very big name to it, but size-wise, it was still pretty small. So I was able to get, like that intimate familial family as soon as I got here, without being overwhelmed with there just being, thousands of people around. And we still, just like nationally got respect, and we're seen as like a bigger school, even if we didn't have that strength in numbers per se. So yeah, I mean, just the second I got to campus, I was like, wow, I mean, the facilities are great. The culture of the team was just so accepting. And I was like, this is definitely somewhere I could see myself being a part of. And another thing for me is I also thought it'd be very cool to play for a female head coach. So I mean, while I was like winding down my list, I was kind of, keeping like a lot of those strong female leaders in mind. And Danny, she is the truth. I mean, you've talked to her before, but I mean, for those people that don't know her personally, a lot of people can be intimidated by a strong woman. But she is nothing to be intimidated by. She is just a goofy ball of life. And we are able to present our, natural, fun loving personalities day in and day out. And they're so supportive of it. So it's just really nice to know that I can walk into that gym and be me and know that everyone around is just gonna, hop on board with me and, just like support that. So yeah, just I just couldn't stop thinking about what life would be like if I was actually here after taking my visit. So went ahead and committed and never looked back.
Your team had an awesome run within the NCAA tournament and finishing runner up, obviously falling to Texas. We're not going to really think much about that. I want to kind of lean into having a female head coach, being a female leader. You are a female leader. You're a Division I athlete, right? I think there's some really cool things when it comes to leadership. What was that like during the NCAA tournament for you? And I'll show you a video here in a second of a post-game interview you had after you just beat Pitt. And I just really think, what attributes do you see in strong female leadership? One modeled in your head coach, but what do you model?
Well, for one, you have to be confident. And I know confidence looks and may sound differently for everybody, but to me, confidence can be just as simple as letting your true personality show, and just knowing that even if other people in the room may not be in support of that, or may not, be a fan of your style of how you do things, the people that are on your side are a fan and do support. So, I mean, just having that kind of confidence, but also being fearless. I mean, we know from the past that anything, not anything, but a lot of things women do, especially in the world of sports, is going to be highly criticized. So just not paying any mind to any critics or any haters, and just relentlessly pursuing the dream that you have at head. And then, so I mean, yeah, just to be fearless and to be confident, I think would be just the two big things.
For you, when you talk about being fearless and confident, how did that show up for you, especially on the world's biggest stages in that NCAA tournament? Is that something that you had going into the tournament? Do you continually work on it? Were you just born with it? I know I'm asking silly questions, but a lot of our audience really wants to know these questions. How do you have confidence? How do you be fearless? And then how do you do it when it matters the most?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I mean, I wouldn't say, born with it, but definitely grew into it over the years. I mean, once you start playing a sport or doing anything that has a competitive role and you succeed at it once, you can start building off of that success that you've had in the past to take yourself to new heights in the future. And then, in the moment, like that national semifinal game, one, was feeling confident going into it because it's like, yes, we are in a competition and we are almost at like the final step of that competition. So it's like we showed up, so now it's time to show out. And with the kind of support staff that I do have here at Louisville, I have amazing coaches. So just in that moment, I was really able to just trust my training and let my game play for itself. And it wasn't the cleanest game in the world, but whenever good things were happening or even just weren't happening to me, happening to the people around me, it's just so much easier to just keep that energy going. So yeah, I mean, we just started off hot, went into it, yeah, super confidently, and we're just able to ride that energy because we had made it this far. We wanted it really, really badly. So just showing up and showing out in that moment.
Your team deserved the success, right? And it just shows that you can do everything right and everything within your control and still not get that end result that you obviously wanted. You wanted that championship. You wanted rings. You wanted that, that moment of feeling first. But I bet there are a lot of lessons that maybe we can dive into later. Okay, PK, I want to go ahead and show you an interview right after you beat Pitt in 5. And I just want your thoughts after you watch this on the value of mindset. And you had a pretty phenomenal set and match there. So let's watch.
McKellar Chester with PK Kong, 11 blocks. Absolutely just took over that match. How did you do that?
Just got to trust your training. It's a team that kind of hits low towards the tape, so it's just like those little things. Just getting your hands over fast and early. Yeah, trusting your training. Dan does a really good job of showing those kinds of things into your head, and when they come out in big moments, they just got to play.
These are two really familiar teams. You've faced this team twice already. It just wouldn't go away, but your team always had a response. How did you mentally outlast them?
In our film room, we have on the wall, outwork, out prep, out team. And it's just, when you come out with these girls day in and day out, it's like, you just know that, if you're not feeling it personally, like the person next to you is going to pick you up, going to be there for you. So just the fact that we're able to just look to each other in times when we're down and just really gut through them, just says a lot about this team as a whole.
How about your performance from the service line? Anna DeBeer, 5 aces. Elena Scott had 10 service aces of the team. How important is that tonight?
Great defense starts with a good serve. And if you can't go out there and attack the ball, then what are you playing for?
Headed to the national championship match, first time in program history. What does this moment mean?
I think it's amazing. Probably one of the coolest things ever. When I was a little girl, I never thought I'd be out here playing college volleyball, but see going and playing on one of the biggest stages in the world and with the coolest people ever, I just think that's awesome. And that just shows, hard work pays off, but it's great to do it with people you love.
PK, an incredible performance. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
What do you think, PK?
Oh, I think, oh my gosh, during that whole interview in that moment, I'm just sitting here like, one, what the heck did we just accomplish? Like, still that whole game hasn't sunk in yet because that was just such a game, such a cool moment to just be there and have made it that far. But yes, there is power in just having a program and a culture where everyone's just on the same page and willing to stay on the same page to work towards their goals. And I just feel like that speaks towards a lot of our success. And then I did give my younger self a shout out there for a moment because I never thought I would be there. Like even just when I was even in my recruiting process, I still never thought I would end up at a super high profile level school. Cause at the time when I committed to Louisville, that was probably around the time where they were just started breaking, the top 25 rankings consistently. So just never thought I would be there in that moment experiencing what I was experiencing. But yeah, at the end of the day, it was cool. Like literally still probably the coolest thing I've ever done. It was just so much fun.
You were part of making history for your team, for your program. Obviously, DBK. I think there's some really cool things about leadership. And one of the things you had mentioned there is you talked about mindset. How important was mindset training, mindset for yourself? What are some key things that you used that helped you have one of the best sets and also help your team win that match?
Well, for one, I feel like my mindset journey has been a little bit of a roller coaster, like most things in life. But I feel like the time when I started to take the mental aspect of being an athlete like truly seriously would be probably towards like the end of my freshman year of college. Because my academic sophomore year, at least, like I knew I was going to be redshirting, and Dan would tell me constantly, he's like, this is not going to be fun mentally. Like, you are here to work, to get better, to get stronger. You're not going to be playing at all. And it's like, I mean, at the end of the day, that's all of us athletes want to do. We want to get out there, we want to compete, but it's like you have to prepare yourself for that. And not only prepare yourself physically, but you need to prepare yourself mentally too. So in my head at first, I'm like, what do you mean prepare myself mentally? I'm like, I've been playing this sport my whole life. Like, I know how it works. Like, what else do I need to work on? Little did I know there were a lot of things that needed some working on, that we're still even working through. But so yeah, really just throughout that whole redshirt season, to one, give myself grace. I mean, new to the stage. I mean, I came from an area of not like the highest level of volleyball, and to be walking into what is now, one of the most competitive gyms college volleyball has to offer, definitely had to change how I was thinking about things. And I feel like this is a lot of things a lot of athletes experience or may struggle with once they get to that collegiate level is like, you are no longer the best in your gym. You're no longer the biggest. You're no longer the most physical. So it's like, how can I one, adjust to a new environment, and then two, once I have made those adjustments, how can I keep building off of those to create myself into like, the dream player I want to be, or how can I reach my ceiling with still keeping like a level head on my shoulders? Because yes, you can chase your dreams. Yes, you can be a better athlete by, just working on your skill. But until you are able to handle the thoughts that you have in your head, I feel like nobody's ever really to reach their true potential. And for me at least, I was the type of athlete where it's like whenever like I made a mistake or had a bad play, I would let that sit, and then I would just kind of completely change my whole demeanor. I mean, my shoulders would drop, my facial expression would drop, I would start getting quiet on the court, and I'd just be in my own head. And that redshirt year definitely taught me a lot. And once I finally realized that, I'm like, this is just a developmental year. I'm like, give yourself some grace and just let yourself work through your mistakes. Volleyball started becoming a lot more fun, and I stopped caring about the mistakes that I was making because rather than them being mistakes, they were lessons. Rather than me doing something wrong, it was me attempting to do the right thing. I just didn't execute it in the right manner. So yeah, grace and gratitude are like my saviors in this world. To just take a step back, take a deep breath, and just reset and go after it again. I also feel like mindset wise, nowadays at least, having a goldfish memory definitely helps. And by that, I mean, just once, volleyball is a sport of a lot of whistles, we start and end the play with the whistle. Once that whistle's blown, we're on to the next play. We're not thinking about what happened in the past. We're not trying to do too much to create a perfect future, but really just focusing on what's going on in that moment.
PK, grace and gratitude. That's right on the money. I think those are some things that I know I talk with my athletes all the time. I know Doc does too, is gratitude presents a mindfulness of staying present in the moment. And then you talk about that goldfish mentality. And volleyball is a game of whistles. There's so many going on at all times, but that's a really cool reset and a really cool aspect that I haven't heard before. But I know a lot of our listeners are probably going to be wondering, oh, PK said goldfish mentality. Okay. I think that little snippet of wisdom can really help out. I noticed too, you talked about commitment. It took your redshirt year to fully commit to, hey, I really want to develop my mindset. And I just wanted to call that out. Would you have changed anything? Would you have done it sooner? Or was that the right timing for you?
I feel like without that redshirt season, considering the culture of my program, I feel like the timing just still would have been maybe just okay enough. But skill-wise, definitely needed the redshirt year, definitely needed it. And I feel like I can even take it back to high school when I really kind of started to think about the mental aspect of volleyball because I had committed to Louisville at the end of my junior year of high school. So going into my senior season, my coach was telling me, he's like, I mean, like, I know you have like a bigger goal in mind, like not even a bigger goal, but like you do have like a set future that you are working towards, like, but just make sure you're not checking out on us now. Like, we still have this season to get through. Like, I mean, at the time we still had like another track season to get through. He's like, don't leave me yet. He's like, mentally, do not leave me yet. And I was like, what do you mean, coach? I am standing right in front of you. Like, I'm not going anywhere. But all it took was, an injury about a week after that, my senior year of high school, where it's like, this is what he meant mentally. Where it's like, okay, physically, I'm like, yes, you can rely on me to just show up and be a volleyball player day in and day out. But it's like, can I show up as a teammate? Can I show up as a leader? Can I just show up as a human first before I am an athlete? And once, he kept telling me, he's like, don't check out on us yet. Don't check out on us yet. One, it was annoying because I'm like, do you think I'm just like mentally gonna like leave you? Like, no. But I'm like, oh no, he definitely just kind of meant, just like having a little bit more of an intention with it. And it's like, I mean, at that time, at least my senior year of high school, we were looking pretty nice, trying to shape ourselves up to finally win a state championship, which we didn't end up doing. But I did finally understand what he meant, and it didn't really start to sink in until I was here in my redshirt season, where I was like, okay, I mean, you can have the highest vertical, you can have the greatest arm swing, but if you don't have a conscious head on your shoulders, I mean, if you're just not thinking straight, then none of that stuff matters, and all of your skill, all of your asset completely goes out the window, because if you aren't in the right mindset to be great and help others be great, you will only be good. And we want to be great, not just good, because we have so much potential and we have people working hard with us and for us and against us. So really just piecing all of those things together. I think that the mentality aspect was just that last piece you need to really just set yourself apart from the rest.
Mhm. Sometimes there can be a stigma about mindset training, mental health. Some folks still see it as a weakness, right? Or you really don't need to ask for help until you really, really need to ask for help. What are your thoughts on the importance of erasing that stigma as far as mental health and then also mindset training? Do you think it's negative, positive? How do you see it in your shoes?
Well, I do love the fact that we are having more conversations about mental health, what it means to be mindful of things. And I feel like although it has been a conversation that has been on the table for some years, it's now finally being an intentional conversation. People are finally finding out what it truly means to be mindful, to have a good headset, and what that means for every different type of situation, whether that's in the workplace or even if it's for an athlete. But just really, I think it was a negative thing that has turned into a positive thing, because there are some people that still believe that no, like, mentality is just a myth, like, if you're not mentally strong, like, that's just all on you, like, you're just being down on yourself, you just want attention and all those kinds of things, but really, it's not, and I feel like that is a box that a lot of young people have been put into because nobody has really given them a chance to even just begin to speak about some things that have been on their mind, because we've been told, just keep it in, stay strong, like until it becomes like a physical problem. It's not a problem, but health is wealth. And I think mental health should be at the top of that scale, because your body can really only be as strong as your mind. And if your mind isn't in it, then the rest of you, I truly believe, cannot be in it whatsoever. So I do really love that, how I mean, just even yeah, max out mindset. I mean, let's see, your whole podcast, I mean, books, all those kinds of things. People are starting to take it more seriously. And I would say it's probably like maybe a little bit of a generational thing. I mean, even with my parents, our parents were immigrants. They immigrated to South Dakota from South Sudan back in 1996. So we have one, not only just a generational difference, but we have a very big cultural difference between the two of us. So even me trying to get them to understand, what mental health is, that I'm like, as your children, we need to be supported in ways that like you may not have thought of we would like needed in before. Where it's like sometimes like I'll come home, my mom's like, oh, like, like you hungry, like you want this, you want that. And I'm like, no, I want you to sit here and listen about the kind of not so great day that I had. And I don't want you to give me any feedback. I don't want you to tell me that everything will be okay, just push through it. I just want you to sit here and tell me that like I'm sorry you feel that way, or it's just like, wow, like I had no idea you were feeling like that. Like, thank you for letting me know. Like, how can I help you get out of these moods or feelings when they do arise? Or like, in what ways I can support you. That was a rather difficult conversation to have. And we had to have it many, many times because, they're still like, what are you trying to say? At the end of the day, I'm trying to say, I'm like, there are things on my mind that you guys might not have thought would be on anybody's mind, but it means a lot to me. And since it means a lot to me, I would like it to mean something to you. So, I mean, just really trying to find just, yeah, like that middle ground. And with that, I would say a lot of people do wait until it is almost too late to speak up about things that are hurting them, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically. And in recent times, I would say people are doing better at that. I mean, I would say just the fact that there are resources out there that are making themselves more prevalent, more known, makes it easier for us to want to reach out sooner. Um, at the end of the day, you really can't help people that don't want to be helped, and that can be said for yourself as well. Like, if you can see yourself, like, you are the only person that truly knows who you are. So once you see yourself starting to slip, starting to take little dips, and you're aware you might need help, but might not know what that looks like, saying something is better than saying nothing. And that's something I realized. Which is why, I started going to therapy and all those kinds of fun things because yep, that redshirt season, it was a lot. The entire year of 2020 and everything that followed just was a lot. I mean, just as a minority living in America, playing sports, female in sports at that, there is just so much on my plate. And while it had taken a toll on me mentally for so many years, it did start to take a toll on me physically. I mean, I was starting to sleep bad, not eating the greatest. And I was like, okay, a lot of red flags are starting to be drawn up. I need help. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know who I need it from, but I'm like, I just need to tell somebody. And so I'm glad, I walked into this amazing culture that is the University of Louisville Volleyball. And there are just people left and right where I can just be like, hey, I don't know what I need right now, but I'm not doing too great. Here's what I got going on. And then from there, solutions just end up finding themselves. You just gotta find a person, a place, or thing that is willing to listen, willing to help, and from there, the help is there.
And I'm telling you, resources and being vulnerable and asking for that help, or maybe just being present enough to say, I don't know what I need, but I'm here. And so I'm going to give 100% of what I have today. If that's 100% of 10%, I'm all in. If that's 100% of 80%, I'm in. If you can give 100, great, right? Thanks for sharing that. Vulnerability is something that we will continue to navigate as a culture, right? And as athletes. And again, there's so much spotlight on you. There's so much expectation. You are there to do a job. You're there to be a student and an athlete and to do both really, really well. If I were to ask you, hey, PK, what are you an advocate for? What are you a voice for, right? You have this platform of volleyball, but you are more than an athlete. What are you passionate about? And I guess, how are you continuing to change the lives of those young little girls that wait in line to get assigned a volleyball or a signed poster or, are watching you on TV? I think you're going to use your platform really well. You've spoken really well on some of the things we've talked about, but what are you passionate about and what are you advocating for?
I would say something I'm very passionate about and something that I like to advocate for would be just simply Black women. I mean, as a minority woman in this country, things, just haven't always been the easiest for us. And I'm not saying anybody has anything easy in life, but just for there to be extra barriers simply because I am a woman and to be that of color, um, is just one, kind of ridiculous, but two, I mean, that's just the card I was dealt. So it's like, okay, rather than complain about it, how can I use this to my advantage? And I would say that growing up at least, or at least when I first started to pick up volleyball and like back in South Dakota in the area where I played it, there weren't many people that looked like me doing what I was doing, which was very discouraging for a very long time because I was like, once I started getting college attention and all those kinds of things, I just didn't really feel like that was a future I could pursue because I didn't see people that looked like me doing that. Or there are people that were, but I mean, at the time they were just so far away than Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and that's all I knew. So part of me was very far to even leave, just any of the states touching South Dakota because I was like, if things start to go south, I would just like to be able to go home if needed. But then I started to realize that I had put myself in a box of fear. I was afraid of commitment. I was afraid of disappointment. And once I realized that I was bigger than that box, I was better than that box, I let myself out of it. And I opened up the idea of, yes, wanting to go play college volleyball, wanting to go do these kinds of things. But now that I am on this stage with this platform, how can I do that for people who are struggling in that same situation that, 13, 14-year-old me was? And the easiest way to do it is, social media, everybody's on it in some sort of way, some sort of capacity. And as much as sometimes I don't like to think of myself as a role model, I am. There will always be eyes on me. So it's one, just being cognizant of the kind of stuff I do put out there, and two, making sure whatever I do put out there is just true to my 100% authentic personality. I wouldn't do anything that doesn't speak true to my character. And so just being able to be comfortable with who I am online has definitely helped out a lot, but just being able to have conversations with people online or through, the different channels of social media has definitely made me more comfortable in the position that I'm in. So I do want to take it back a little bit to, just when I was playing club volleyball and all those kinds of things. The entire time I played club volleyball in the state of South Dakota, I never had another teammate of color, never had another teammate that was a minority. When I was in high school, I had one, maybe two. And I hate to put, numbers and those kinds of things, but walk into my college locker room, boom, there's five. Then there's six. And then I'm out here like, something, it was something that I didn't think of as much, or I didn't like to think of as much, because I knew definitely everybody else in the room around me wasn't thinking about that. They weren't thinking about like, there are just no Black people around here other than PK. I mean, that's just something that wasn't on a lot of my teammates' minds back in high school and in my club days. But being able to come to college and have people that looked like me, that shared experiences with me, was just so awesome. It was so comforting. Because yeah, I feel like that's something a lot of my non-teammates of colors didn't realize, was that there were just natural internal struggles from, the barriers of life that, just the way America was set up in the past. You're still working, those working forces now. There were just things that would be on my mind that I would want to talk about, but feel like I couldn't talk about because I was afraid of how it would be perceived. And all of those feelings pretty much disappeared once I got to college, because there were just so many people around me that looked like me, share those experiences with me. So that was just a very, very nice, comforting situation. And then I had met you at Triple Crown in Kansas City a couple weeks ago. And, I was out there doing like little athlete interviews and those kinds of things. And I had a group of 3 young Black women that I was interviewing at one point. And I was sitting there, just trying to like get like a scope of their vibe. I was like, all right, like what kind of volleyball questions do you guys want to talk about? And one of them, she was like, can we talk about race and sports? And I was like, oh, Yep, I was like, let's do it, let's do it. And that also was just another really comforting thing, that even just these young girls are comfortable enough to talk about their experiences, the things they've endured, and the places they want to go, because they do see, I mean, there are people like me, people like them that are around the country doing great things. So they know that their dreams, their futures are attainable. It's just, just how they want to go about it, really. But I just thought that that was such a cool conversation. I mean, like, I thought I was just going to be there, talking about volleyball with all these young rising stars all weekend long. But no, I had a whole conversation about, because the girls that played for that club, they were out of the city of Louisville. So, I mean, Breonna Taylor had taken a toll on them, George Floyd had taken a toll on them, and just they were even telling me about how the club they had played at previously, I mean, was similar to the clubs I played at growing up, where it's like you look around and nobody looks like you. So it kind of makes you be like that quiet kid in the gym who is just really there to, get in, get some work, and go out. We really never thought of it as a lifestyle, or at least for me, I never thought of volleyball as a lifestyle until college, whereas it was just kind of a hobby back then. But once I was able to see people, that looked like me, felt like me, just being successful and being happy in their success and just really enjoying every little detail of the process, I was like, this isn't just a hobby. This is a lifestyle. And this is something that we can just put so much more love and joy into, since there is love and joy to go around. I was like, just got to find it. And I found it from finding it. But
And I think that journey, and it's so special that we can have this conversation. I think some are almost afraid to have a conversation about race in sport. And what are some key things that you feel like your team of girls do within the Louisville volleyball program? What do your coaches do to want a safe environment to continue to promote conversation? Right. And moments to give grace to each other and grace to one another when we talk about certain social topics. What is your program doing really well? And it sounds like you're a facilitator in that, which is powerful, right? You're leading by example, you're listening, but you're leading combos that are really, really tough. So what are a couple things that you all are doing well, or maybe a couple learning moments that have helped you be successful in this topic?
Well, I would say, at least my freshman year, even before my freshman year, before my class even got to campus, we were just having kind of Zooms regularly with one of our mental health specialists that was on board as well. But I mean, just like whenever things were happening in the media, things were happening online, we just, opened up a space to be like, hey, this happened. How do you guys feel? Is there anything you need from us? What can we do for you? And so on and so forth, and just conversations would just flow from there. But one, that made me very happy that we were just sitting there having this conversation before I had even stepped foot in Louisville as a real student athlete. So walking into it, I was like, okay, you know what? Like, this program will see me more than an athlete. They will identify, the fact that I'm a Black woman in America and there are struggles that I will face, and they are willing to talk about these kinds of issues with me, and see what I need from support, or see what they can do. And I just thought that that was so comforting, so beautiful, really. And then so once we finally got here, I mean, we just continued to have those kinds of conversations where literally, yeah, just the whole team would get together, sit down, and we would start with either just like a simple question, or just, something that we saw on like a trending media post, and then we just start to talk about it. And there was even a day where our athletic director came in to talk about us, not talk about us, talk to us, just about like all the, the heavy racial tensions going on in the area. And he even went as far to say as like, I mean, for him at least, he's from, the South. He understands at least like friends and colleagues that are his age, just kind of might be a little too far gone, might not really be at the point where like they're willing to make, that mental shift, to the point where you're like, not all Black people are thugs, villains, like these bad people. He just pretty much reinstilled the fact that, we can only control what we can control, and anything that we or anyone needs to be supported can and will be given. And I mean, just to see, yeah, I mean, like our athletic director was sitting in our film room, with us, just the volleyball team. I was like, it just shows that not only our program cares about its athletes, but just the athletic department cares about all of its athletes here at Louisville. And when you have a culture like that, it's really hard to be broken up. It's really, really, really hard to be broken up because one, I mean, somebody like me will continue to feel like they can continue to have these conversations, raise their voice, say things they want to say whenever, really, and just know that they will be backed. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I got lucky, not even got lucky, but I let myself walk into a very supportive environment with a good system, and it has only been getting stronger as the years go on.
I like that you say you can control what you can control, and understanding that you had to be brave and show up. And I think there's some times where fear can really get in the way of that. Fear of being liked, fear of, I wonder if anybody will understand me, fear, am I the only one thinking these things? And so you're super brave in having this conversation. And I'm so glad that you trust me to be able to have it, because it's powerful. And you shared a lot of really, really great things. And that you're more than just a volleyball athlete. You're around winners, right? You've been on a lot of winning stages, winning teams, winning programs. You're elite. When social media, bright lights, stages, demands of everybody and everyone, how do you stay true to yourself? How do you stay authentically you?
Mhm. Okay, so I would say how I stay authentically me is one, I like to stick to, just like my values, my beliefs. I am a Christian woman, so it's just like just staying in touch with my faith and those kinds of little things. It's just super easy to like wake up and just be like, okay, this is who I am, this is who I want. This is who I want to be. So just moving towards my goals, with just like my values in hindsight really keeps me going consistently on a daily basis. But as I continue to grow up and change and evolve through these phases of life, just continuing to give myself my own personal time. I am somebody who does like to say no very often, because if I don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it. And there's nothing you can do to convince me otherwise. And so, I mean, on my alone time, on my free time, I collect vinyls. I have a pretty nice record player. So just love spinning records, I'm a big music girl. So just doing that. I write a lot, have like a little bit of like a personal blog. It's very private. Don't ask to see it because I won't show you. Uh, so I mean, just anytime where I just, have like thoughts wallowing, I'll just get out a pen and paper, get on my computer, and I'll just write it all out. Um, I like to nap. Naps are really nice, even if it's just like a short, quick one. If I could just get to like close my eyes, like even if I'll just do it to like some soft music, really just take some time to just focus on just like my breathing, all those kinds of little things, helps me stay true to myself. But spending time with friends, I feel like that jump to college to high school, I mean, it's difficult for anybody, but finding friend groups was probably, like one of the harder parts. So just really making sure I'm still making time to spend time with the people that I love and care about, helps me stay me. And yeah, I mean, just staying in touch with my family and my friends that are back at home because they are so far away and it can get super easy to just, lose contact because of that distance. But I feel like the distance, if anything, has brought me and some of my people back at home closer together because we don't have the luxury of, just being 5 minutes away from one another. So it makes us a lot more intentional with how we are treating each other. But I'm just also a big words of affirmations kind of gal. So I mean, I'll write things on sticky notes. I mean, just like, yeah, the way I'm like talking to myself in the mirror in my own head, just helps me stay up and stay happy and make me who I am.
You are confirming every exercise that I give my individual athletes when we talk about authenticity, leadership. I heard sticky notes, affirmations that you see daily. You have something you really choose to believe outside of yourself, right? Whether it be faith, spirituality, that's super important because I think it gives you a perspective that it's not always about you, but you're given the gifts that you've been given to go carry out some really cool things. Is there anything else on your heart? Anything else that you want to share that has impacted your journey when it comes to mindset, mentorship, leadership, being a Division I athlete?
I just really like how mindset is just such a huge, cool thing that a lot of people are talking about. But two, the fact that it can look and feel so differently for everybody. I think that's like probably the most beautiful part of it because when it comes to any type of problem, no matter what it may be, especially, just mental issues, nobody really knows how to solve them. Nobody has the solution to all the problems and issues out there in the world, but when we can at least start to run on the same common ground, we find a lot more commonalities that lie there than we could have originally thought possibly. So, just seeing people come together from all sorts of different worlds and aspects is like super fun, super cool. And something that was on my mind, because there have just been, like, a lot of talk in social media lately. I mean, just, like, after, like, the March Madness tournaments had finished up, and, I mean, me being who I am, just, like, a Black woman in America, Gabrielle Union had posted something on Instagram the other day, and she had, like, highlighted just LSU's women's basketball team, Angela Bassett, who did, like, not win, like, the Best Supporting Actress or whatever, and, was it, like, the Oscars a couple weeks ago? And just like a few other just like influential Black women. And it was pretty much just like that little reminder where it's like we've had to work twice as hard to get half as much. And even though it's not a fun process, it's pretty weighing. It's kind of heavy. That we see you, we hear you, we support you, and just to see people, starting to pour into one another. It's just super cool. I mean, it makes me wanna even work harder because I'm like, "Okay, like, yes, people are starting to look up, look out," and it's like, whenever, like, any, like, bad thoughts or sad moments start to arise, start to show themselves, I'm like, not gonna let this bad or upset 5 minutes turn into, like an hour, 2 hours, like a whole day. It's like, I'll let it be for that moment, but I'm like, there are people out here who are looking for things to celebrate, and there are so many things to celebrate, and they don't have to be big things. I'm like, it's really all in the small things. So I'm like, once we start to appreciate and accept that, it just makes the bigger picture so much more easier to digest in the process. So yeah, I just like to see one, more conversations are being had, and two, that they're productive conversations.
Mhm. This is something hopefully we can work together because there's some athletes, right? Whether it be in high school, in the club space, or even in the collegiate space. What are some key things to maybe start that conversation in a safe way? How would you
Mhm.
recommend an athlete wanting to bring that up or maybe talk about some of these social issues? Is there an easy conversation starter that's worked for you or that you've seen be successful?
I would say there's no easy way to start a hard conversation. Just truthfully and honestly, I'm like even trying to think back to how I started some of these conversations because for me at least, since there were friends and faces that looked similar to me, I feel like with them, I was like probably yeah, one of the easiest things in the world. I'm like, hey, like you see this? You see this the other day? I'm like, let's talk about it real quick. But with people, who don't look like me or didn't experience the things I have, I definitely walk with a little more caution, and I wish that it wasn't that way because I feel like I'm the one that had to have been walking on, eggshells this whole time, just like please the personalities of others. But I feel like once you know the relationship you have with the person you want to have that conversation with, you should just kind of already know how you can be able to approach that. Um, so yeah, I would like there was a time, where it's like a couple of my roommates and I were like, there was just some stuff going on. I did want to talk to them about it. And I was like, oh, like, I don't want to just like waste their time or like have this be a drag, but I'm like, this is like really important to me. And like, there's just some stuff I really want to get off my chest. So it just started with like a simple text. I was like, hey, like, I've had some stuff in my mind. Like, you guys free to chat sometime? And then they're like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, cool, cool," like, great. And, like, since we had already had such a close relationship with one another, no matter the topic, they're always willing to listen, and it's like, at the end of the day, people may not always agree with what you have to say or might not always believe and support the things you have to say, but I think people just being willing to listen is half the battle, is literally half of the battle. It's just getting them to hear what you have to say. So one, I would just say identify the kind of relationship you have with the person you want to have that conversation with. And from there, you guys should know how to communicate with each other. And if you don't, I mean, yeah, just start with the simple, hey, something's on my mind. Like, can we chat about this sometime? And from there, I mean, the worst thing they could say is no. And then after that, they can just be like, actually, I don't want to hear this. I mean, that's the worst case scenario. But chances are, by the time it gets to that point, you've already gotten some words out. So at least the issue's on their mind.
True. It's bravery. And I'm glad you caught that, and it's listening. And both of those things we can control, right? In those moments where you have a friend, a trusted one, I just like that. Hey, I have something on my mind. Can you just listen? Right? That presents an opportunity for them to be really awesome and brave in that moment too. Because how often do we as a society listen first? It's a skill every day that I'm learning. So PK, I appreciate everything that you shared. I do know that you're going to have a very successful career. That's, whatever's remaining for you. But I saw more of the person and more of the awesome human you are behind the athlete. And I can't thank you enough. So thanks for standing for what you do, being an advocate. But you gave a lot of great wisdom and knowledge for us. And I look forward to seeing what you do in your future.
Thank you. This is a lot of fun talking with you.